A bombshell just hit Formula One, and it's sending shockwaves through every garage, boardroom, and pit wall. What I'm about to tell you could rewrite the sport's power structure from the top down. Aston Martin has just sealed one of the most dramatic financial deals in F1 history, $146 million for a minority stake in their team. But the real story? Who's behind it? And if the growing whispers are true, this could be a revenge arc straight out of a movie. Because just 3 weeks ago, Christian Horner, the mastermind behind Red Bull's rise from underdog to superpower, was fired, gone. After 20 years, 8 driver championships, and 6 constructors titles, he was shown the door. Now, right as the dust settles from that stunning exit, someone with serious money just bought into one of Red Bull's rising rivals, a $146 million investment into Aston Martin's F1 team, signed, sealed, but mysteriously unclaimed. That's right, the buyer remains anonymous. This is where it gets interesting, because all signs point to Horner. If that's true, we're not just watching a team change ownership. We're watching the beginning of a cold war between the empire Horner built and the one he might be building next. Let's break it down. Aston Martin Lagonda, the car company, announced they're cashing out of their stake in the Aston Martin F1 team. That might sound odd, but here's the catch. Aston Martin, the car maker, only owned 4.6% of the team. The majority has always belonged to Lawrence Stroll, the billionaire who bought the struggling Force India operation in 2018, rebranded it as Racing Point, then transformed it into Aston Martin F1. So when the car company sold its 4.6% share for $146 million, it set a staggering valuation. Aston Martin F1 is now worth $3.2 billion. For context, Stroll paid just $117 million for Force India in 2018. In 7 years, that investment has exploded in value by over 2,700%. That's wild. But again, the valuation is not the story here. The story is who just paid that kind of money, and why they don't want anyone to know their name. Because in F1, spending $146 million on a team stake isn't something you do in silence. It's usually a badge of honor. It's marketing leverage. It's your ticket into one of the most elite clubs in sport. Think about the Andretti bid, the Audi takeover, the Alpine deal with US investors. Every one of them was public. But not this. This investor signed a legally binding agreement. The money's locked, but the name hidden. And here's where the timing gets suspicious. 3 weeks ago, Horner, Red Bull's godfather figure, the man who turned a fizzy drink company into a Formula One dynasty, was suddenly fired. It wasn't performance-based. It wasn't because the car was slow. This was about power, internal boardroom fights, corporate reshuffling, a tug-of-war between Red Bull's Thai and Austrian ownership factions. Horner had been pushing for greater control, ownership rights, not just a title. But after a shift in internal control, the Austrian side won. Horner lost. And just like that, the architect of Red Bull's success was out. And now, a mysterious $146 million buy-in at one of F1's most promising teams. No public face, total radio silence, and an unusual sense of urgency around the deal. Insiders are connecting the dots. The theory? Horner's behind the deal, quietly, strategically, and with one hell of a long game in mind. It makes sense. Legally, Horner is still on gardening leave, an F1 clause that blocks him from joining a rival team until 2026. But here's the twist. Gardening leave doesn't block you from investing. He can't run another team, but he can buy into one, which would explain the secrecy. If his name came out now, it could trigger legal challenges. It could get messy. But if he stays quiet, lets the ink dry, lets the lawyers work, he could walk into 2026 with ownership rights, a new team, and a personal vendetta. Even Martin Brundle recently hinted at this. The F1 commentator and former driver said Horner still wants full control of a team, that he's not done, that he'll be back, but not as an employee, as a boss. Back to Aston Martin. This team isn't just another midfield squad anymore. Lawrence Stroll has poured resources into it, new facilities, big salaries, and most notably, Adrian Newey, Yes, the man many believe to be the greatest designer in Formula One history is heading there, reportedly to build their 2026 car. Guess who understands Newey better than almost anyone? Horner. The two built Red Bull together. They share a technical language, a long history of collaboration, and mutual respect. If they reunite at Aston Martin, game over. Then there's the engine. Honda is cutting ties with Red Bull and will become Aston Martin's works engine supplier starting in 2026. That's the same Honda Horner worked with to dominate recent seasons. He knows how they operate. He knows how to extract performance and keep them motivated. Suddenly, it all fits. Newey on design, Honda on power, Alonso in the car, Stroll's money, and Horner's strategic brain at the top, possibly pulling the strings from behind the curtain. From Stroll's perspective, bringing Horner into the fold, even secretly, would complete the puzzle. He's built the infrastructure, he's secured the engine, he's brought in talent. Now he needs someone who knows how to win. Someone who's not just built an F1 team, but built a dynasty. Let's talk money. Could Horner actually afford this? He's made millions at Red Bull. Base salary, bonuses, and probably a hefty severance package after his exit. And he wouldn't need to do it alone. With his reputation, finding partners or backers would be no problem. A group of investors aligned with him with a long-term vision could easily fund a $146 million buy-in. Meanwhile, Aston Martin, the company, is in trouble. Stock price down 50%. Revenue falling. US tariffs squeezing the luxury car market. They needed cash fast. That's why they sold. And that's why the deal was done quietly, because the buyer likely wanted silence for now. Honda executives have reportedly been attending more Aston Martin meetings than expected. Alonso's been unusually tight-lipped about team developments, especially for someone who usually speaks his mind. And whispers in the paddock say Newey has been asking questions. Not about car design, but about ownership. This isn't just speculation anymore. This is a chessboard, and Horner may have just made the first move. If he really is behind this deal, Red Bull may have made the biggest mistake of the decade, firing the man who knows every play in their playbook, every strength, every weakness, every system. And now he might be preparing to go to war with them from the other side of the garage. The timing couldn't be more dangerous. The 2026 regulation reset is the biggest since hybrid engines were introduced. A clean slate, new power units, new aero rules. Everyone starts from zero, which means the right team with the right minds could leapfrog the entire field. And if that team has Newey, Honda, Alonso, and Horner, that's not just a contender, that's a title threat. So what happens next? Well, the clock is ticking. Deals like this can't stay quiet forever. Legal agreements will expire, statements will be made, and the identity of this mystery investor will be revealed. When it is, we'll know whether we're just watching an ownership shuffle or witnessing the launch of the biggest F1 power play since Mercedes bought Brawn. If it's Horner, then Red Bull hasn't just lost a team principal, they've created a monster. A man they fired, a man with a chip on his shoulder, a man with the money, brains, and connections to come back stronger and take everything they built and beat them with it. Because in Formula One, the only thing more dangerous than a fast car is a man with something to prove. And Christian Horner, he's got something to prove.